in racism. It doesn't matter whether you're in a southern city or a northern city. Racism is racism. I recall being in Massachusetts back in the early 70s, as Charlotte-Mecklenburg was starting to integrate schools. And there was a lot of opposition to the integration of schools. And I remember many of my northern white friends asking the question, why won't whites allow blacks to come to school with white children down south? And they thought it was terrible. And a few years after that, when they started to integrate the schools in Massachusetts and Boston, they did the same thing. So racism is racism no matter where it is. And when Steve referred to me as a dean, that's just a nice way to say, Willie, you old.
Now, old is the fact you have B and I who have more than 6 years of journalism in this town. You want to jump in?
What it did make me think of, and I want all of you to remember this, when we talk in terms of racism, it is not only for black men, but for black women as well. The case that came to mind for me here in Charlotte was the case of Henry Wallace. Black women were disappearing and dying. Oh, she was a prostitute. Well, you know, she was on drugs. She ran away from home. Her and her mama didn't get along. Nobody was saying that somebody was killing black women. And they were finding bodies left and right around here. The first person who actually said, there's a serial killer in Charlotte killing black women, was a reporter by the name of Glenn Kellis. Glenn was covering the police beat, and he kept asking them, these different cases kept popping up of black women's bodies. And it was like, have y'all thought about there may be a serial, oh no, it couldn't be a serial killer. That couldn't happen. But no attention was being given to the fact that so many black women were disappearing. Let one white woman disappear. One. And I say that because it is almost endemic in the way we've been indoctrinated in this country to think that people of color have less social capital. And if something happens to them, you either deserved it or you caused it. The same thing with these young men. You immediately said, hold on to them because they probably did this or had something to do with this. And Willie, when you talked about the Susan Smith case, I personally said, give me 5 minutes with that heifer. And the reason I say that is because there were several members, young black men who were members of my father's home church on Highway 49 between Lockhart and Sharon, South Carolina, who were rounded up because Susan Smith said it was a black man. One of them, and no offense to anyone in the gay and lesbian community, but he was flaming. He ain't sold nobody's children. And he was in there having to answer questions that he had kidnapped 2 white children, and it offended him totally. He was like, I would never hurt a baby. But here I am trying to defend myself because this white woman said it was a black man in a toboggan. So no matter what came out of his mouth, and that was the case with these young men, no matter what came out of their mouths, a white woman had been defiled. And somebody needed to pay for it. I'm saying all of that to say, pay close attention, y'all, to everything. I am constantly telling people, insofar as media is concerned, this mouth ain't no prayer book. No reporter's mouth is a prayer book. Too often I have seen reporters use certain stories to build their careers to get to the next market. It would not surprise me if there weren't some motives among media about who was going to get the best story, who was going to have the lead story, who was going to be the one on the network that night to talk about this story. Question everything.